Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gail Dickson. I am the Director of Family Support Initiatives at Area Resources for Community and Human Services, better known as ARCHS. Thank you to everyone for joining us as we begin the 4th of 8 sessions for the 2020 Missouri Reentry Conference. On Tuesday, we learned about different workforce development initiatives around the Show Me State from Dr. Marty Leathers. He discussed how much even he learned during the COVID-19 pandemic, including how big of a difference something like drive-through job fair could be for those without consistent childcare. If you missed his keynote speech, it is available to watch on the conference app. Under the Agenda tab, click on Tuesday's date and there will be a button to view the recording. Yesterday, we released a second round of videos for the film festival. Both of them share a workforce development theme. You can also watch those on the conference app. Let's go over a few housekeeping notes ahead of today's session. This is a Zoom webinar, so attendees are not on camera and are automatically muted. The only people you can see or hear are the host and panelists. The webinar is being recorded and will be sent out to anyone who registered within the next 48 hours. If you would like to ask our panel or conference host questions, you can utilize the Q&A feature below. For other comments and discussion, the chat feature is also an option. You can send your chat messages to just the facilitators or to everyone attending. Communicating with the facilitators is the default. To communicate with everyone, you will need to click on the To button and change to all panelists and attendees. Questions will be delivered to the facilitators and will appear in the Q&A window as they are answered. You can also edit the view of your own screen. On the Zoom toolbar, there is a drop-down list that says View Options with a few choices there. You can also adjust the size of the PowerPoint on the video screens if you prefer one to be larger than the other. If you are on a mobile device, simply tap the smaller screen to switch. Now, we would like to thank the Missouri Coalition of Recovery Support. They have sponsored the conference app and webpage. And here's a few cool features on this year's app. The app allows you to interact with each other. Conference attendees, once you log in, you can use your shake feature on the app to network with others in the same session as you are. And so if you got your phone, shake your phone and see who you can network with on today's webinar. We also have the app feature, which is called The Wall, where you can post pictures or conversation starters. And you know what? We'll love to see you learning and engaging. You can also check out sponsors and exhibitors. There will be videos posted to the Film Festival tab every Wednesday. These videos were submitted by organizations across the state serving the justice involved. Today, we continue the critical discussion on workforce development and opportunities. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Ken Chapman from the Missouri Department of Corrections. He will be leading the panel discussion titled Missouri State Agency Collaborations That Work. Ken, I'm passing the baton to you.
Thank you, Gail. It's a real privilege and honor to be here today. I appreciate all of you that are out there joining us by way of this virtual medium and virtual platform. It's exciting for us to be able to know that right where you are, we can be too, and that we're in this work literally together. And that's what's important, is for us to recognize that. And as we talk about those things, the people that I'm going to introduce to you today are not just colleagues, but they're friends. They're people who work hard because they understand that it's important for us as state agencies and people to help other people achieve their potential and help them to be successful. So I'm thrilled to death to be able to introduce some of my colleagues and friends with you. I'm going to start backwards, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jon Genwright here in a minute, but I'm going to start with Jerry Ann Yagers-Brinicki first. Jerry Ann is, I call her the Deputy Director of Family Support Division. I don't know if that's right or not, but she is in charge of the Workforce Development Unit over at Department of Social Services. And she oversees quite a few different programs, including SNAP, which is Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, and TANF, Temporary Assistance for Needy Families. And she is in charge of those programs, and we're doing a lot of work with them to help provide clients services prior to release and even when they're out in the community. So I'm grateful to her for joining us today. Also, Tim Gaines, who's the Deputy Director, Assistant Director of Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, Vocational Rehabilitation. Say those fast 5 times, but I'm so glad Tim can join us today and talk a little bit about some of the pilot programs we're working on with him. My friend Yvonne Wright, who is kind of in charge of all the collaborative efforts done by Department of Higher Ed Workforce Development. She's going to join us to talk about some of the work that we're doing in our reentry centers and with job placement and job preparation. So I'm grateful for her for joining us. And then the honorary custody is Jon Genwright, who is the Deputy Director over Child Support Enforcement for Department of Social Services. And Jon is doing some very things with his team, very collaborative and very creative things to make sure that our clients inside the walls and as they transition out into the community are getting the services that they need to be successful. And the whole point of this conversation today is to acknowledge the fact that navigating our systems in the state of Missouri is difficult. It's not easy. It's not a simple process, and it can be very difficult for our staff. For our clients. And so when you filter that into the fact that we're talking about multiple state agencies, when you filter into the fact that we all have our own data sharing pieces and our own information sharing pieces, it can be difficult for us to get on the same page. And so one of the things I'm really excited about is the collaborative work that we're doing together to make sure that we are talking about our shared clients, to make sure that we're focused on providing them and their family the services they need, because we recognize that there's a whole host of reasons why people come back to prison. And there's a whole host of reasons why people are not successful. And so this group is really what I call the barrier busters. This is what we do. We figure out where the barriers are. We try and remove them so that our families can be successful. As you all know out there from the Department of Corrections, it's about improving lives for safer communities. But I'm so glad to have these teammates on board with me and us as we work towards that to make our state better. So a little preface to these conversations. Some of these relationships were born out of Governor Parsons' vision when he took office after Governor Greitens was removed from office as governor. He took over, and he immediately addressed 2 major initiatives that he wanted to focus on. There were infrastructure and workforce development. And as you know, infrastructure is about roads and bridges and technology and the accessibility of the internet for those all over our state, especially in our rural communities as well. And so he has been addressing that along with workforce development. And I'm so glad that we have all these folks on here who kind of have their own little niche in that workforce development world. And so I'm excited, and a lot of these relationships were born out of that. And it's exciting to see how they have flourished even after 2017, 2018, when we really got started on this. So it's exciting. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Jon Genwright. And Jon, I'm so glad you could join us today from your home and Department of Social Services right down the road from where I'm at. But I want you to share with us a little bit about the work that you all are doing with our justice-involved population.
Sure, Ken. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me, giving me the opportunity to discuss how we work together. One of the things I think is very appropriate, the title of this session is Collaborations That Work. And what you have to realize, though, is they don't always work the first time, but that doesn't mean that they'll never work. So one of the things that we really focus on at the Department of Social Services in our collaborations is working to make them work. So if something is not working, don't be afraid to say, okay, let's try it another way. And I think that kind of is a prime example of what we've done over the years with the Department of Corrections. We've had many programs and many policies that didn't work. But if they don't work, you go back to the table and you find something that does work. The only time it's a failure is when you walk out that door. And we've made a promise to Ken's folks that we are not going to walk out that door. We're going to find something that works. Over the years, we've tried many different approaches. When we first started out, we were just going in and doing presentations, telling them about child support, and that helped some, but that didn't help enough. So the next thing that we did is we tried to get more information to them, more dialogue. Right. So one of the things that Ken and his folks did was they assisted us in helping to bring our computer system into the different facilities, so that when we went to the facility, we just wouldn't talk to them and do a presentation in general child support. We could help assist them on their specific cases. Mm-hmm. And that was a tremendous help to us, and it kind of gave them a leg up when they exited the facility. From that point, though, we started thinking about what happens when they leave, because at that point, once they left, we didn't know whether or not they were remembering what we were doing, whether or not they were keeping up with it. So we started looking at different programs and different processes where we would actually follow them outside. And from that born our theory, or our program that we call the Inside Out method, where we start working with them inside the facility. We meet with them, we discuss their barriers, we come up with a plan, and then once they're released, we continue to work with them to follow up on them to make sure that they're doing what they said they would do or what they need to do. Right. One of the biggest misconceptions on child support is the only folks that need child support help are the ones that are incarcerated for child support. And that is a very small number. I think statewide, there's only about 140 individuals that are incarcerated just for child support. The majority of individuals that have child support issues or child support barriers either A, don't know they have a barrier yet, right, or don't admit to that barrier. Mm-hmm. So this helps us to uncover that. The ones that are in there for child support, most of them, if they're in there just for child support, they don't learn their lesson. They're not coming back for just the child support because they saw that, this is not a good place to be. But the ones that are not in there for child support but have child support barriers, mm-hmm, sometimes they don't realize how important it is to follow through with their child support obligations once they get out, to avoid coming back in for a probation violation. So we try to work with them. We try to get them in a position where they can pay their child support. We look at modifying their cases. We look at getting them the opportunity to start paying child support. Another misconception about child support is you have to pay all of your child support or none of your child support. And what I say is you don't always have to make the payment, but you need to make a payment. Because if you ever get before a judge or the court system and you can tell them that, look, I didn't have the full amount, but I gave you half of what I had. That's going to be good enough to probably keep you from being violated on your probation or getting charged with criminal non-support. But you have to show the judge and the judicial system that you are at minimum making an effort to pay your child support. So the big thing that we're doing now with a whole bunch of the facilities is trying to work with them on the inside out. I'm sure folks will talk to you a little bit later about what we're doing at Tipton with the reentry program there. You may have already heard some of that, but we are involved there and we're really, really enthused about it. This COVID thing kind of put us on the sidetrack there on a lot of issues. So, but we're coming back to that. One of the things that we're working on, actually, that we were just working on this week is working with Vandalia. And as most of you folks know, Vandalia is the women's institution that works, and Ken, correct me if I'm wrong, but they are the intake unit as well, right?
Yes, reception diagnostic unit, yes.
So, and we've had a great relationship with the folks in Vandalia for many years now. Mm-hmm. And what we're trying to do now is expand that out. Rewinding a little bit, about 3 years ago, a new federal child support rule passed that says that if you're going to be incarcerated for more than 6 months, we have to give you an opportunity to request a modification and review your case to see if it should be modified. If you're incarcerated, in all probability, then your case would need to be modified. How do we get to those individuals? We send them a letter. A lot of those justice-involved folks are not really too happy to get letters from a state agency, so some of them go unread. What we're doing in Vandalia, or what we hope to do, is we want to meet with every offender that enters the facility, assess them to see if they have any child support needs. If they have a child support case, we will start the modification at that point. So we're trying to work through the ones that are already there first, and then after that, on a monthly basis, we're going to get the information on the folks that are coming in, and we'll assess them. We'll look at their situation, see if they need a modification, see if they need any assistance with their child support, and work with them that way. A lot of you might say, well, that's a women's facility, they don't have child support. Well, somebody's watching their kids.
That's right.
There's no custodial parents that are incarcerated. Maybe a few that just had the child, but normally, you don't bring your child to the DOC facility with you, so you become a non-custodial parent. I don't know, Ken, do you have any specific questions or anything that other than that you want me to discuss?
Yeah, I think, John, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll move on to Yvonne. But in the meantime, I want to give folks an opportunity. Gail mentioned this when we started, that there's a chat box, there's a question and answer box. Please don't be afraid. If you have questions about the services, regardless of whether it's John or Yvonne or Tim or Jerry Ann, go ahead and send those questions in. And as we get those, we can filter those. We'll have time at the end to kind of talk through those questions. So please don't hesitate to do that. I think, John, the thing that I would really, before we head on over to Yvonne, is really to say, this is something that we've been working on for several years now, John. We've been doing this for a while with really good results. I mean, really good outcomes. Men and women both are starting to understand what the process is, how the system works. It's not an easy system to navigate. We know that's tough. But I think the fact that we're trying to move the needle prior to release from prison is a pretty big issue, isn't it, John?
Yes, it is. It is. It's one of the biggest issues that I think, one of the biggest barriers is child support. It's child support and employment. And they work together, because if you give them a job, but we take half of it, they don't want to have that job.
Right.
So
right.
We need to get them in a position where once they get that job, they still have enough money to take care of themselves as well as their children.
And I think that's right. I think the idea is to move them towards that self-sufficiency, John, and get them to where they can stand on their own 2 feet. And that's a pretty good segue over to Yvonne. I point this way, but it doesn't matter which way I point. She's on either side of me. So as we transition from John over to Yvonne, I think I think that's where we start looking at, Yvonne, our relationship with Department of Higher Ed and Workforce Development. And I know Marty Leathers talked a lot on Tuesday about apprenticeship programs and those kind of pieces. Talk to us a little bit about the Job Center, what the functions are of the Job Center, and how that relates to not just our population, but to everybody in the state of Missouri.
Well, thank you very much, Ken, and it's an honor to be here. And I hope you'll indulge me for just a second and let me just address what a thrill it is to be, as you so well pointed out, you're with my friends on this panel. What you're going to find as we each talk to you today, I think, is that nothing that we do as far as partnership and collaboration is in a silo. So it might be me talking about the Office of Workforce Development and Higher Ed partnering with DOC, but the fact of the matter is that most of the things that we're going to be talking about, everyone, and even people that aren't on this panel, are involved in making all these things actualize, come to actualization to help our justice-involved individuals. So I say that because I'm so proud of the collaboration we have in Missouri. And Ken, you've been a good part of the glue to help hold that together, and we've appreciated that very much. And so I think that partnership and that collaboration has been the strength at the state level, which has caused us to have such good results as we move the pilots that we've done and the different programs we've done and the things that Jon just talked about, what has made us seeing success, and how when we move forward we will have continued success. So now to answer your question, I promise I didn't forget it. So we operate, I'm with the Office of Workforce Development, which is under the Department of Higher Education and Workforce Development. And what we do is we operate approximately 30 job centers across the state. The reason I said approximately is we have some that offer more services than others do, but we do represent all of Missouri, serve all of Missouri. In those job centers, we provide a variety of services to help individuals both receive employment opportunities, but an opportunity to go to work, but also to be trained or to be skilled up in order to actualize their potential. And as you said, it's the opportunity for career advancement, or just even getting started and reaching self-sufficiency. And so we offer a variety of services. We do have some unique things too, I think, that we excel in Missouri, and one of those, I think, is our apprenticeship program. And in fact, most of the members of this panel serve on an apprenticeship council that we have through the Office of Workforce Development. So again, you're going to hear, I think, repeatedly that we spend a lot of time with each other in a variety of ways to collaborate to make these things happen. And it's very interrelated, kind of like a spider's web, if you will. But we offer those services to the job centers. And Ken, do you want me to go ahead and talk a little bit about some of the projects that we've been involved in?
Yeah, please. Let's talk about some of those, Yvonne.
Okay. Specifically, I wanted to mention, and Jon, you gave me a great segue, so I'll just pick up on it. You talked about Vandalia. And I do know that seeing some of the other things that have happened during this Reentry Conference, this has probably been mentioned before, but one of the things that we're able to do at the Office of Workforce Development is support these projects that do happen out in the field through our local job centers as well as our local workforce development boards. One of those projects, for example, is a program that was called Aspire Mo, which was a brainchild of Kellyanne Coates through the Women's Council. I saw her name on the previous slide. And this was a program that occurred in Vandalia, and it really focused on an entrepreneurial program for the individuals that were in Vandalia, and then the support services to once they exited the institution, to be able to help them find employment. And that was a program that we were able to support with some of our dollars, as well as some blood, sweat, and tears as we all went through the project. But that's one example. We do have a couple of other projects that we have had going on. One was a project that was called Excel, which was in our central region. And still, I'll come back to our central region in a second, but those folks in the Central Region are very passionate about serving justice-involved individuals and have really been a part of some of the efforts. We also have a program in the Springfield area through our Ozark Workforce Development Board called Apply that also focuses on providing services behind the walls to help individuals that are going to be released and giving them that boot up and hopefully providing those pre-services to that eliminate some of the hassle and maybe the dropout or the ability to lose that person in the process once they get out. That's the whole point of doing this, is to get people engaged before they leave the institution so that we can make sure they have that connectivity. So I will also just briefly touch upon the Tipton example, because I think that's a true example of how our collaboration all works together, and I know you're going to hear a little more about it, so I won't steal anyone else's thunder, but I will say that Tipton was the first behind the walls, if you will, job center environment that has taken place. I gotta drop it again, the old COVID thing here, but we were in the process of actually taking that next step to do this, to replicate the program in the Kansas City area, and then along came COVID. But it does not mean that that put a stop to it. It may have put a slight pause to it, but we will be revisiting that. So our hope and our plan is to continue to replicate this idea of the behind the walls job center model. And I know that Tim probably will want to talk about that a little bit, so I don't want to steal that, but we're very proud of these efforts, and we feel that they're critical in helping. When we say our public workforce system is here to serve all job seekers in Missouri, we have to mean it. It can't just be, this agency's niche population over here or this one. It has to be everybody, and that does include our justice-involved individuals. So.
Thank you, Yvonne. One of the things that I think is really cool is the fact that, we release 18 to 20,000 offenders every year into the labor market. And it's really amazing to find out how many folks really don't realize, and how many employers don't realize, the quality of vocational training and the quality of education that's provided to our clients. And when we get to connect with folks like you guys at DHEWD, and I'm not going to call you dude, but I will call you dude. Okay. The relationship with higher ed, the relationship that we have with Missouri community colleges, the relationships that we have with the job centers, the workforce development boards, all of this is work that is connected to making sure that our clients get out and have an opportunity to find a career pathway. And that's really what I want to give credit to you guys over at DHEWD, is the desire to establish a pathway. It's not just about a job. It's about a job that provides a gainful wage. And it's a job where our folks can really begin to have a career, which is new for a lot of our folks. I mean, they're not used to that. So thank you for that. I know there are several questions that are popping up. We'll get to your questions here in a little bit. But I want to move on, because that's a beautiful segue. I want you to know we didn't practice this, but this is really working out well. It makes me look smart, which is, as all of you who know me know, that is nearly impossible to do. But I do want to turn it over to Tim Gaines now for a minute. And Tim, I want you to talk about the work that we do with vocational rehabilitation and the things that we're doing right now to address the needs of, let's be honest, a lot of our clients who have, disabilities, and a lot of our clients who have, some co-occurring disorders. So Tim, talk to us about some of the partnerships and some of the projects we're working on with Folk Rehab.
Well, very good, Ken. It's really an honor for me to be here today with everyone here. As we've already talked about, this is a great partnership, and Missouri VR is very proud to be a part of this partnership. And Ken, by the way, I do think you're a very smart man. So.
You're one of two of us. So.
Okay. Well, anyway, I think probably to answer your question, what I'd like to do, Ken, if it's okay, is kind of look at what we've done in the past, what we're doing now, and kind of looking at the future regarding reentry services for justice-involved individuals. So you know what, VR has really always been a strong partner with the Department of Corrections. You know, we've always worked with the justice-involved individuals. You know, back in the covered wagon days when I was a counselor, I used to go to the Tipton pre-release center all the time. And that's, so anyway, we've been doing that for a long time. Traditionally, those referrals came to us through probation and parole, and we still do that, and we're still going to continue to do that. That's something that we're going to continue to do. A few years ago, however, we got to looking at ways that we could be more proactive working with justice-involved individuals. And so we worked with the DOC to create a way that we could work with the students within the facilities there who might be on an IEP, or perhaps they're working on their high school equivalency. So we developed a pilot project at your Licking, Missouri Correctional Facility. And one of our counselors goes into that facility, or at least right now with COVID, we're interrupted with that. But we were going into that facility once a month, and we were speaking to the justice-involved individuals who were within a couple of months or so of releasing, who we knew had a disability. As I said, they might have an IEP, they might be working on a high school diploma or other issues of disabilities. We would then coordinate those efforts with the probation and parole officer where the person was going to go in that hometown area, getting things set up for them, getting the VR counselor in that area set up so that the case could be transferred and there wouldn't be any, hopefully any delay or interruption during that. So, and that really, we feel is working really well. So as I said, COVID has kind of interrupted things, but we're hoping definitely to continue that. And as I said, the goal really was to look at a more proactive way to do this, to working with justice involved folks. And so, we did a soul search in VR. We really took a look at our processes and we thought, okay, how can we better serve this population? What are we doing now that needs to be revised or changed? And one of the things that we did is we looked at kind of an old, antiquated policy or rule that says that we can't open a case until somebody gets out of that institution. And so we were asking ourselves, well, who made that rule up, or where did that rule come from? It's kind of one of those things, well, we've always been doing it that way, so it must be right. Well, anyway, we threw that out the window. And so VR is now really, we can open a case, and we're opening cases, determining eligibility, providing guidance and counseling, working with the justice involved individuals while they're in the facility, identifying vocational goals. And so we're doing all this right now. And that's really been a game changer for us working with this population. And I might mention that, some of the current things that we're working on right now, I know John and Yvonne mentioned the Tipton Center. We are also really excited about that program. And by changing our processes of now opening a case before the individuals are released into the communities is really brought us to the table. And so we've identified our Jeff City District Office and have a counselor that's working, that will be working with that center once COVID gets behind us. But we're ready to work very closely in that job center, and we're excited about that. Another thing that we've done at VR is we've appointed about 20, I think there's 20 folks on this team, and this is our VR Reentry Team. And it's led by our wonderful Rebecca Maynard of our organization. And we've got all these folks on this team. We've got counselors on the team. We've got supervisors. We've got some of our management staff. And they're turbocharged. They are absolutely passionate about working with this population. Some of them are former probation and parole officers. Many of them have corrections experience. So we're committed. This team is especially committed to working with the population. Another thing I wanted to mention real quickly is the 3 Justice Reinvestment Initiative programs that we're involved with. They're especially, we've got three of the JRI programs in Springfield. We've got one in St. Joe and one in Columbia. So there's 3 of them, and we're collaborating very closely with Corrections, Department of Mental Health, and other organizations to provide wraparound services for individuals, you know, when they get out into the communities, making sure that they have all the services that they need, whether it be housing, daycare, employment services, case management. Those wraparound services are really essential to making that person successful in careers. So, and then we're also working, Ken, with your unit, your special education department at DOC on ways that we can improve providing pre-employment transition services and information about careers and about vocational rehabilitation to those individuals that are on IEPs or perhaps working on their high set and will be released in the near future. So really with all of that, you know, where are we going with Missouri VR and justice involved individuals? I can tell you right now, folks, that reentry services is a priority with Missouri VR. And as Ken said earlier, you know, there's 20,000 or so folks every single year that get released out into Missouri communities. Yeah. I don't have statistics right in front of me right now, but I can tell you for sure there's a significant number or significant percentage of these individuals have disabilities. And not only do they have disabilities, but those disabilities would cause them some type of challenge or impediment to employment. So, you know, Ken, we're looking at this population especially as being an underserved population, and we're focusing on that to improve and expand services for the justice involved individuals with disabilities that are being released out into our communities. As you know, Ken, I know you're probably right in the middle of this, and I know Rebecca is too. We're working on a memorandum of understanding with your organization to better align and our services to really put down on paper, okay, well, who's going to do what? How are we going to work together? How are we going to do this and that? And so I think that's a great thing. And I'm really surprised. I don't know if you were, but I'm surprised we didn't already have one with you. But yeah. Anyway, we're working on it.
That's right. That's right. I got an email from Kim saying we got to get on this.
That's right. Kim G is also, I need to mention Kim G. She's a very integral part of our team here, the Reentry Team. So so we're gonna continue to work together, and I hope that we can find a way. Also, one of the things on my wish list, Ken, is being able to open cases virtually and work remotely and virtually with the population there in your facilities. And so we're also, I know that our reentry team and Rebecca and Kim are working on a reentry guide for our staff, an interagency training plan that to bring our 2 staffs together and work closer together. I know we also have a SharePoint site with amazing links and great resources that are going to help our staff really being able to work effectively with justice involved individuals. I think we're even working on a video right now. We're getting ready to do a video that can be shared with DOC, Ken, and your organization. Yep. One of the things that I hope is this video will be helpful in dispelling many of the myths that VR can and cannot do. I know that's kind of a thing where somebody says, oh yeah, VR can do this, and then by the time it gets spread around, it's like, okay, well, VR can buy this and do all kinds of things that maybe are not in the scope of the thing. So, okay, so while we're talking about wish lists, that really, I think looking at the future, VR really hopes to see an expansion of these pilot projects like we have in Licking. We're really hopeful that the JRI programs can be expanded.
Yeah.
The Tipton Reentry Center, the Tipton Job Center there, it'd be awesome if we could expand those programs. And also expand employment career opportunities for those special education students within the facilities. We want to do that. We're at the table, Ken. You know we are.
Yes.
We're very pumped up and excited about the future. This is a priority for us. We're committed and excited about our strong partnership with DOC and our mutual goals of working together to provide justice-involved individuals opportunities for those great careers and hope for the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Tim. I really appreciate that. We value our relationship with VR. We value the fact that it's blossoming and it's blooming, and more importantly, that we realize that, you know, our paths cross a lot more with our clients than maybe we thought they did. And that's always good when you realize that you share the same vision to address needs, to help people, you know, move towards healthy relationships and help them move towards health, not just in a sense of relational, but in a sense of professionality, growing towards where they can be, helping them get there, knowing that our population may need a little bit more guidance than others, but it's still the fact that we share that. And that's the vision that's important. And so I appreciate you sharing where we've been, where we are, where we want to go. I like your wish list. On my wish list is a Mercedes. So if you, I'm just kidding. VR does not provide that. Okay, everybody, that's not what VR does. But I sure appreciate you.
I think it might have been on some of those lists that gets passed around that VR might be able to buy a Mercedes.
Well, I think VR provides one for every justice involved. I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
do that.
Thanks a lot, Ken.
Yeah.
My phone's starting to ring right now.
Yeah. It's probably Genwright. It's probably Genwright calling you. All right. Enough of that. So, and as we talk about these relationships, you know, we all talk about this idea of self-sufficiency. Tim talked about it. Yvonne talked about it. Jon talked about it. And now we're going to move on to social services and to the family support division with Jerry Ann. And you'll notice that Jerry Ann is the one that does not have her picture. So Jerry Ann has opted to be just nothing on the screen. So that's her. That's what she has. But Jerry Ann, talk to us a little bit about some of the projects that we're working on with you guys over in the Workforce Development Unit at Social Services.
Put my picture up there just in case I didn't do anything exactly right. Nobody can identify me.
There you go.
That there's a rhyme and a reason to everything. So unlike the other agencies that have a lot of them had really long-standing relationships with Department of Corrections, we have not. We met with the Department of Corrections 2 years ago in October of 2018. It's like our anniversary. That's fun. And so we were talking about a variety of federal funds that we had in a whole bunch of different programs, not just social services, because there's something like 70 employment and training programs. And then so Ken, our good friend Ken, found out we had money, so we became fast friends. So fast forward a little bit, and then we figured out, wait, our missions mesh, and they mesh really, really well. Department of Social Services is empower Missourians to live safe, healthy, and productive lives. DOC is improving lives for safer communities. Okay, that makes sense. Now let's see if we maybe share the same clients. So we looked at 50 women and 52 men within 6 months of release. This is not going to be a shock to anybody on the call, but there are poor people in prison. And they had been in our system for a very, very long time. We could go back and look at benefit usage all the way to birth for people getting medical help, and to 2007 for getting SNAP benefits, and we looked at some other benefits, and we didn't even look at the whole family for all of them. And it came to the tune of spending a little over $256,000 on average for women. This includes the cost of incarceration, over $65,000 for men, and an average of nearly $162,000. Well, that's when the conversation that we had already started really started to play out. Okay, we don't want to invest taxpayer dollars like that. That doesn't make any sense. Yes, you have the feel-good stories, and yes, it's the right thing to do, but now we have the data that says it's the right thing to do. So what can we do, and how can we push that envelope without using the word creative, because our fiscal hates that word? So how can we push that envelope to where we're doing things different, we're asking those questions, and we're seeing how we can invest some money? And we can invest it different than than benefits and prisons. So we started having those conversations, and Ken would randomly call me and say, like, hey, can we do this? Or, hey, can we do that? And you know what? We can. And so what we did, since our clients are shared, I would say 99% of them would be my guess, 95, 99%, a ton of them, because almost everybody we looked up was in our system. So since our clients are shared, what can we do next? Well, one of the first things we did was kind of like VR, is we started taking the SNAP applications before people got out. We can process them to a point. That doesn't mean that this is why my picture isn't on there, just in case I say anything wrong. I'm going to be clear. They're not getting SNAP benefits before they're released. Right. But on the day they're released, we have the information ready to go. So it's a shorter time frame, because you can't release people without nothing. It just is not going to work. So that was one of the things we did. Another thing that we did was Ken said, listen, we can do this non-driver's license and this birth certificate one time out of funds we have, or if the individual has some funds, they can do it. But then what? What are you going to do next? So we are paying for some of the non-driver's license and the birth certificates. We're going down that path soon, that the individuals can't get themselves. We also, decided that it was a good idea to purchase a truck simulator down in Poplar Bluff. And so that's sitting in the Community Supervision Center right now. And the goal with that is to get it mobile. Once we can get it on the trailer, our fun favorite topic, COVID halted that, but it's going to be on the trailer soon. And to help individuals that are not only in the supervision center, but are also in like the Sykeston area and other areas, once we get it on the trailer, to overcome poverty, to get these truck driving jobs, a lot of them which employers are standing there ready to hire, and they're coming out with insurance and benefits. Mm-hmm. And depending on where they go, they might even get like little fringes, like from their little store. Like if they're making cereal and stuff like that, they might get it super cheap. Mm-hmm. Hang on just 1 second. Sorry. Another thing that we did was the Missouri Resource Guide, and that is not just for the corrections project, but it was just in general. And so we as in a whole group, contributed to that. And if you need that, I'm sure somehow we can figure out how to get that after this to other individuals or people on the call. But we know how hard it is to navigate the system. So we know other people are going to find it hard to navigate the system. And then this just little last tidbit before, so I don't take up the whole call, is that I just want to kind of tell you how it works in our world. So our leadership and Ken's leadership and other leadership doesn't tell us no. They just say, okay, go do it. Do what you need to do to make it happen. And so one of my favorite stories, although maybe not the biggest thing in the world, was on May the 20th, I believe I got a phone call that said, we can do something. We can do something. So the food banks are overwhelmed with people wanting to come in, and they just, need all this extra food because of the pandemic. And DOC has these wonderful gardens that are maintained by incarcerated individuals, and they're maintained very well because they take a lot of pride in that. And what DOC said what Marty Meyer said was, I can find the plants if you can pay for them. And that's what we did. We bought 2,000 plants and they planted them. And that may not seem like a huge, big deal, but in state government role, in our world, in less than 24 hours, we bought 2,000 plants that are probably going to produce over 30,000 pounds of food.
Right.
And so that's my point, is that we have these collaborations for people. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter about me. It doesn't, it's not about DSS. It's about who we're serving and wanting their future to be better and their kids' futures to be better.
Well said. And I think that's the piece that when we stop and you boil down what these 4 people and what we're doing on the DOC side with these 4 divisions and agencies, is the fact that we're very focused on clients. We're very focused on giving people the services they need. And we're focused in doing that in real time and addressing those needs as soon as possible, even pre-release if possible. But then when they get out, we recognize the importance of being able to, correspond to them. If you heard anything last Thursday, it was a fact that when needs come up, we have to respond to them. And we need to be doing that in such a way that we empower people to make good choices. And I think that's what these 4 agencies or divisions, that's what we're doing so well together, is we're trying to figure out, the system is complicated and the system sets up barriers. So how do we remove those barriers? How do we ask the questions that are the right questions so that we can change things? We had a meeting last Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday with the Federal Interagency Council on Crime Prevention and Improving Reentry from Washington, D.C. And, one of the things that we talked about, and especially in regards to Jon Genwright and what we're doing with child support enforcement, is that if somebody doesn't pay their child support, we take away their driver's license. Well, how do we expect them to get to work to pay their child support if we're taking away their driver's license? So there's some things that we know the system has set up that are probably well-intended, but are not producing the outcomes that we need for them to produce. And so those are discussions that we enter into. Some of those discussions can be resolved at Tim's level, at Yvonne's level, at John's level, at Jerry Ann's level, at my level, and some of them require higher ups to do that work. And fortunately, all of us that are on this call have higher ups who say, okay, what do you need? What's the barrier? Tell me what it is. What can I do to remove that barrier? And it's that kind of interaction, folks, that I think is really unique. That's what we heard last week from Pastor Loudon and the council, was that these kind of collaborations aren't happening at other states, and they're certainly not happening at the federal level. And I don't think I really realized how unique it was till he said it. I mean, I'm very proud of the relationship that I have with all these folks and the relationship that the department shares with these other departments, but I didn't realize how rare it was. So as we talk about that and those challenges, what I want us to understand is that it's okay for us to ask questions. It's okay for us to say, how can we do this better? That's what we should be doing. So a couple of questions have come up, and I'm going to pose them right now, and I'm going to start with Genwright. Okay, Genwright, you ready for this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what is the maximum amount that can be garnished from someone's check, and how long does it take to get an order modified?
The maximum amount we can take is 50% of their take home. Modifications can take anywhere from 3 months to a year and a half, depending on if it's contested or not, if the other party agrees. So it can be a lengthy process. That's one of the reasons why we're trying to get them as early as possible when they enter the facility, so that by the time that they're released, they'll be in a good position.
Excellent. So the time that it takes to do that modification, Jon, is that kind of dependent upon the situation?
It's dependent upon the situation.
Okay.
Both parties have to be served. So sometimes if there is a issue on getting that other party served, we can't move forward until the other party is served. Of course, we're going to be able to serve the one incarcerated, but the other parent, if they cannot be located and served, then since it is a legal matter, we cannot proceed. Sometimes when they are served, they might get a private attorney and contest it through the courts, and then you have your normal court delays that you have when any motions are filed.
And that's even more complicated with COVID, right? I mean, because courts
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that makes it even more difficult. Thanks. Thanks, John. Another person, Erica Rogers on here, said, I have a client who is accumulating child support payments while incarcerated. She's $22,000 in debt. She works 40 hours a week, but only takes home $60 from her paycheck. She's paying back fees and current payments to present garnishment. Are those the kind of situations, John, that your staff can kind of look into with right referral from us? I mean, if we've got a client that we know via probation and parole, or obviously what we're doing is pre-release, but is there a way for us to get in contact with you through probation and parole to address some of those needs? What would the ideal position be?
Yeah, specifically regarding that one thing you want to watch if someone says that they're taking too much is ask them to bring you their tech stuff. The most we should be taking is 50% of the take home. If we're taking more than 50%, or it appears as though we're taking more than 50%, then you need to contact us. It really doesn't matter if they're $22,000 behind or $400 behind, that 50% marker is still in place. So that doesn't increase or decrease with the size of the debt. So the big thing that you want to look at is, are they taking more than 50%? Because if they are, in all likelihood, we have an issue. Now, it could be that the 50% is being taken because of some voluntary deductions that would not be included into the 50%, but that's something that we can put an eye on. So the best way would be to reach out to your child support office or your friendly Ken Chapman to get in touch with me.
Sorry, you broke up there for a minute. I'm just kidding. So of course, yes, absolutely. We certainly want to be proactive, and that's probably why we have a lot of unemployed clients with child support orders, is that there's that dynamic, John, where maybe some of them are losing 50%, but they're not working because they know they're going to lose 50%. It's kind of a cycle there, isn't it? And that's where the
Sure.
education part comes in, and working with your staff and working with you guys to help educate them on that, correct?
Sure.
Okay, perfect. I wanted to make sure we had that. Okay, my next question is for Yvonne Wright, okay? And this is a tough one. What happened to the Chiefs on Sunday? No, I'm just kidding. Don't answer that question. Yvonne and I are Chiefs fans. So, but the question I have is, when our clients are out and they're out of prison, they don't need to make an appointment to come to the job center. They can just show up, right?
That is correct. And thanks for poking bringing up the Chiefs. That was, but I know you're in there with me.
It's painful.
They do not. They can walk into any job center in the area. But if they do in any way struggle with how to locate those services, that's exactly what they're here for. And, we have this network of opportunity. I mean, if somebody got a hold of Tim could, make that connection with me, and we can make sure that individual got what they needed. So that's what I love about our collaboration. And I will share that I'm not sure how much Marty spoke to this the other day, but Dr. Leathers, but we are working very diligently on a big project called Job Centers of the Future, and that is it was actually in place before COVID came along, but COVID has really helped cement some of our efforts and initiatives moving forward that, we have to be able to meet that job seeker and that customer where they're at. And so we have to be available, through mobile apps, through virtual services, online, in person if that's what people choose, via the phone, via this video technology, whatever the case may be. So including, as we've mentioned before, going to that individual and meeting them at the point before we lose them in the process and get some things done, like VR being able to open cases behind the walls. That's huge. It's absolutely huge. And so being able to always have those multiple ways that any job seeker can access the services. So, but they can walk right in the door and get those services.
Perfect. And Tim, there's kind of sliding over to you. There's a question here. Lisa Holmes just had several offenders ask about VR, so she sent them kind of 3 different forms, consent forms, and those kind of pieces that she found online. I've told them to contact VR upon release. She wants to know, should she be doing that process differently? Is there somebody from your unit we should be reaching out to, or your section, that we could figure out what those needs are easier?
Well, we'll certainly work with her. We've got a way that she could contact our central office. I mean, she could do that. That's, she could call our toll-free number or get a hold of me, or
Okay.
we have an email, info@vr.desi.mo.gov. That's info@vr.desi.mo.gov would be an easy way for her to do that. We'll certainly put her in touch with exactly who she needs to be working with.
Appreciate that, Tim, very much so. I see here a statement from Donna King to all panelists. It says, "Go Seahawks." Donna, I need for you to get off the call. I need for you to repent of such a thing. Donna's a good friend, so I'm going to let that ride, Donna, but I had to poke a little fun at you. John, one of the questions on here was, is there child support assistance for clients who owe other states? Are there other opportunities for us to interact about those other states? Do you guys do that, or is that pretty well just a Missouri piece?
It really depends. Most interstate cases, they're going to go through the state of Missouri anyway, so we can act as a middleman there and assist. We're kind of limited, but normally what happens with interstate cases is if they can't enforce it, they ask us to enforce it for them because they don't have certain long-arm tools that we would have. So most of the folks that are incarcerated, they have an interstate case open with the state of Missouri. The ones that don't, we would basically be left to just being pretty much a contact, getting them into contact with who they need to speak to.
Perfect. Jerry Ann, you talked a little bit about the 30-day waiver and a little bit about how that works. So what do we need to do? One of the questions was from the institution, is there a certain form that needs to be filled out? Is there a certain person they need to be interacting with from social services if they have somebody that they would like to have screened for SNAP prior to release?
So you're going to have to help me out, Ken. I thought the Missouri Food Bank Association was coming into, and I know right now they might not be coming into anywhere, and I don't know if we've worked that virtual process out yet, but the Missouri Food Bank Association should be coming into the correctional facilities, and if not, we can have that conversation offline with whomever we need to. And they've been taking those applications for a long time. The difference is now instead of them taking them and holding them, they're giving them directly to social services, and then we are processing them to the point of when the release happens, and then we finish processing. So the short answer is Missouri Food Bank Association or Feeding Missouri should already be taking those, and if they're not, we should talk about how to make that happen.
Perfect. Perfect. I appreciate that. Thank you for that question. So I think what we're getting to right now is the fact that there's a lot of challenges for what we do, and there's a lot of things that we know the answers to and some things that we don't know the answers to. One of the things I appreciate, Brian Williams from Randolph County posted this just a second ago, with so much attention given to COVID, and rightly so. Are there medical related services established to assist justice involved individuals returning back into society? Our agency has assisted with the purchase of medication or seeing a primary physician. And that's one of the pieces that I would tell you that we don't have anybody necessarily on this call who could respond to that specifically, Brian, but I would tell you this. One of the things that we're working on is Medicaid, and making sure that the clients who qualify for Medicaid are getting that prior to release. And so we're working diligently with Social Security Administration and other folks to make sure that that's happening. At the state level, it's happening also at the federal government level. So we're working to that end. It's certainly not a perfect science, and I would also have you know that that dynamic is awfully difficult with COVID. So it's a little tough to do that. So, but we're working towards that end, and we hope that that will kind of, I won't say resolve itself, but will be something that we can get to the bottom of very shortly. There's some information that's being posted in the chat box, and I want to make sure you see that. I know Tim has put some information there about VR's 23 district offices, the 877 number, the email info information that's there. All of these programs, obviously, you can find them online, whether it's at DHEWD or DSS or obviously DOC, DESE, all that stuff is available. But one of the things that was hinted at that I want to touch on just real briefly is the fact that we've talked a little bit about reentry centers. We've opened one at Tipton Correctional Center. We're looking to open 2 more just as soon as COVID kind of relaxes itself. And so we're hopeful for that. But what you've heard today, these are the core services that are going to be provided in those reentry centers. We want that. We want to make sure that our folks understand that these are the core services offered by our state. If you can access these services will help you, help your family, and help move you towards stability. That's what we want to do in the Department of Corrections. It doesn't mean we don't want our outside collaborators coming in from criminal justice ministry or from, you know, the Missouri Boot Hill Regional Consortia or from, you know, Lighthouse or from wherever. We're not trying to exclude them, but those are typically regional or even local providers. What we're trying to do is establish state providers where we know these are the services that are offered on the outside, but we're just trying to get them lined up prior to release. The idea is to reduce, like Jerry Ann said earlier, be more efficient with delivery of services, to be more effective. You know, somebody asked me the other day, and Yvonne, you'll appreciate this. The question is, if we've got job centers outside, why are we trying to put a job center inside? And I said, well, that's a great question. When you're releasing 18 to 20,000 people, why do you think we're trying to put one inside? And when you put it in those terms, people are like, you're releasing what? Who? How many? Well, that's a lot of people into the labor force. And back in the day, prior to COVID, we were at 3.1, you know, unemployment. And right now we're at what, 7%, I think somebody said. I think Marty said that maybe, excuse me, Dr. Leathers said that the other day. So I think those are all really, really great things, but we got to keep pushing that envelope. And so that's the reason why the reentry centers are so important. I do have a question that just popped up, one for Jerry Ann. So Jerry Ann, one of the questions that was posed was, what kind of services do you provide through your workforce unit? What are the services that are generally there? So if you'd like to take a few minutes to talk about those.
Yes, I would love to. I got a little hyper focused on the DOC project, but really there are a whole lot of other services that we offer, employment and training services to justice individuals and other low-income populations. So Skill Up is offered to individuals that are on SNAP, and it can pay for training, it can help with resumes, it can help with coaching, it can happen to get somebody employed. So we do have quite a few people, based on the numbers that are getting released, that are on SNAP. But sometimes that doesn't happen because if there's a past manufacturing or distribution charge, they themselves, they could put their hands on it, but they themselves can't be on it. So another program that we have is the Missouri Work Assistance Program, and that one is for individuals that are getting cash assistance. That's not a huge population, but that program does pretty much the same thing as Skill Up. We also have a healthcare grant, and this one is not based on if you are in SNAP. It is not, if you're getting SNAP, it's also not based on if you're getting cash. It's low income, and it pays for healthcare training, and it's in Kansas City, St. Louis, in the central region. And I love this grant because it lets you progress up with only counting your income when you first started. So we have people going from CNAs to MTs to LPNs to RNs. It was a 5-year grant. They extended it a year, so we have another year of it. My bet is they'll extend it again, or there'll be another grant at some point. And then we have some youth programs, which I really like these two because the focus of those is on, obviously youth. So like we do fund some of the Jobs for America's Graduates programs. We do fund some Jobs Leagues programs. So hopefully those types of programs will help people not get into these other benefits and systems that we're in. But we have all of our programs like this and other agencies' programs in that resource guide that we can somehow get out however we need to. Thanks, Ken.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. Well, I think we're just about out of time. So before we go, I just want to say a word of thanks to Jon, to Yvonne, to Tim, to Jerry Ann for joining us today. I'm very excited about the work that we're doing as state agencies. More importantly than that, I'm excited about the fact that whenever I pick up the phone to call any of you, you accept my call, even though I know you're rolling your eyes before you answer. I appreciate that. But the camaraderie that we feel together and the friendship, but more importantly, the nature of the work that we do requires us to really, really problem solve. And I am so grateful for you all, for what you do, for your leadership, for the vision that you have to serve the population of Missouri. So I want to personally say thank you. Thank you to all of you out there who've attended today. This isn't a goodbye yet, so don't anybody be signing off, okay? You'll get me in trouble with Gail. I don't need any help, okay? So, but I just want to thank you for participating. The questions today were excellent. And so I know you were listening. I know you were interacting, but I appreciate you being a part. So with that, I'm going to hush and I'm going to turn it back over to my friend, Gail Dickson from ARCHS.
Thank you so much, Ken. You are the hostess with the mostest. It just naturally comes to you. I'm going to take a quote in the chat section. I think Lana summed it up best. God bless each and every one of you for the work you're doing to help our fellow Missourians. And I just want to thank you, Ken, for facilitating the panelists today, and the panelists for your wealth of knowledge and wisdom that you shared with us, which is valuable. But attendees, if you wish to continue this discussion, you may definitely do that by going to our wall, and guess where it's at? On the Missouri Reentry app. You're going to continually hearing this over and over again. So we encourage you to utilize that feature. And of course, if you want any additional information about Ken Chapman or any of our panelists today, you can definitely go again, where? To the Missouri Reentry app, and there you will find their full bios. Well, it is now time for our raffle. And remember, in order to win, you have to be present. So here we go.
Ken Chapman. I'm just kidding.
Sherry Browski. Sherry Browski, is she present? Well, let me tell you, if Sherry's here, this is what you've won today. Today's prize is provided by Criminal Justice Ministry, a $100 Amazon gift card. Sherry's not here. We're spinning the wheel again. Stephen Mueller. Is Stephen Mueller in the house?
Nope.
No. All right, here we go again. Nobody wants a $100 Amazon card.
I told you, just stop on Ken Chapman.
Rebecca Hall. It's Rebecca. Oh, wow. Okay. Here we go again. Anna Bryant.
Yes.
Yay, Anna! You are the winner of the $100 Amazon gift card from our friends at Criminal Justice Ministry. Congratulations to you, Anna. Someone from our conference team will reach out to you soon to claim your prize. Okay, one last thing we got to do. Once this session ends, there will be a brief survey to provide feedback on today's content. We would love to hear from you. Please take time to fill out the survey, and Zoom will automatically direct you toward the survey. But we don't want you to forget about next week. We want you to register for next week's session on Tuesday, October the 20th, under the agenda tab. And where is that? On the Missouri Reentry tab. Next week's theme is going to be Missouri's response to COVID-19. And the keynote speaker will be the director of the Department of Social Services, Jennifer Tidball. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your week. And most of all, take care of yourself and be well, because you are important. Have a great rest of your afternoon. Bye-bye.